As a part of pre-screening a potential adoption situation, one of the most important parts of evaluating a potential case is to find out how not only the expectant mother feels, but also the expectant father, and if there is more than one possible father, as often is the case, then we need to know how each of the men feels in case they turn out to be the biological father of the child. It is not uncommon, and it is understandable, that many expectant mothers would like to be the sole decision maker. They may have judgments about the putative father, about whether or not they would cooperate or whether or not they would make a good parent. Full Circle Adoptions feels that it is not our place to be making that judgment, but rather that both biological parents need to be informed that there is a pregnancy, that the father may be the father of the child, and to be given an opportunity for counseling and reflection about what they would like to have happen for that child. We find that generally when men are approached with great respect, that they take this question seriously, they reflect on it, and they make a decision that is not a reactive decision. They make a decision that is based on not just how they feel, but what they really think will be good for the expected child. I think that in some situations that I've heard of outside of our agency where fathers are not approached in a timely fashion and are not given as much opportunity to reflect on their decision, they can be more reactive and say, I want the child, not necessarily because they're wanting to parent, but because they have felt disrespected. And so it's very important to know that we believe in respecting both biological parents and in giving them ample opportunity to reflect on their choices. Now, in many states, I want to say most states, the putative father has to be notified that there is a pregnancy and that the expectant mother is considering an adoption plan. There are some states that do not require notice to the putative father, but instead they have what are called birth father registries, and the fellow has to know about the registry and has to write to them and establish that he may be the father of an expectant child so that he is given notice if an adoption is in the works. I think that that's something of a legal fiction. I think most people would agree that's something of a legal fiction, that many men don't know about the registries in those states. And as a part of thinking about this process, I always encourage prospective adoptive parents to think down the road to when the child that you may adopt is 15 and sitting at the breakfast table in the morning, eating their Cheerios, and the child, now a teenager, may ask, how did my father, my biological father, feel about the adoption plan? And then you might say, well, you were born in Utah. And he goes, well, yeah, I know I was born in Utah or Idaho or one of the other no-notice states. But what does that have to do with it? And then you say, well, we didn't have to give notice to him. That seems to me to be a recipe for clinical complexities that can be avoided easily. In that moment, the kid goes, wow, I may have had a biological parent who might have wanted to be an active parent in my life. And that could set things up to have some challenging emotions in adolescence or whenever that particular subject comes up. I think that even in states where there is no notice that is legally required, that it is better to take the high road and to give notice and to honor the fact that, yes, the man may care and may say that he wants to parent his own child, but that you don't avoid him for expedience sake or for the sake of having an adoption. Much better and whole for the child as well as everybody involved, that everybody be involved. With regard to identifying who is the biological father of an expected child, at the time I'm taping this little video clip, there is new technology that will allow a blood test to determine who is the biological father if there is more than one potential biological father. I don't think that this is in wide usage at this particular moment in time, but I anticipate that it may gain wider usage because it certainly offers the promise of decreasing the stress around the time of the birth of the child. If the putative father and the biological mother are not open to having a blood test prior to the birth of the baby, or if that particular opportunity simply doesn't present itself and the agency gets a call when the woman is in labor from the hospital, and that's not uncommon, those moments do happen. There is a way of doing a test post-birth that doesn't involve taking a blood test, and it's called a buccal swab test. And what one does, I wish I'd brought the Q-tip swabs with me, but imagine this pen is a Q-tip swab, and there are 4 of them, about double the length of this pen. And the lab person who's doing the test literally rubs the Q-tip swab on the inside of the cheek near the buccal muscle, and in so doing is gathering some cellular information that then in the lab is turned into DNA. And then that is done twice on the inside of cheek, on opposite cheeks, for each person and the baby. Babies just sort of, scrunch up their eyebrows a little bit, but it's no more uncomfortable than that. And the test results now can be available within a 24-hour period of the lab receiving, the samples. So they receive the samples, which takes a day to get there. They do the test. 24 hours later, they can usually get the result, and they can usually fax that to the adoption professionals. So there are ways for the biological father to know whether this is his decision to make, and it can be helpful either pre or post-birth to have a kind of legal security around the adoption, so that the child and the prospective adoptive parents, as well as the birth mother, aren't worried and nobody's looking over their shoulder in the years to come.